We all have that person in our life that likes to tell you the thing you don't want to hear about yourself. And it makes you really angry. Okay, maybe just me. That's fine. It was my sister Kim. Anyone that knows me and my sister Kim, we're like extreme polar opposites, but really alike at the same time, but really opposite. She's the black, I'm the white, and well, I can be black, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're just really opposite. And she sat there and said something to me that I didn't realize was so triggering until she said it, and she loved saying it to me all the time because she knew she'd get a reaction. And she'd say, "Why you gotta be so perfect?" And I would get so mad because to me, I didn't feel like I could be anywhere near perfect like she was accusing me of. And she told me that I always sought perfection. And then after she said it to me this one time after a really heated argument, me trying to tell her, how can I be perfect? How can I try to claim perfection? You know what we grew up with, Kim. I mean, I grew up in a home that I lived 2 different lives. I lived one at school and I lived one at home. And the one at school was the one that I created. It was the facade. It was the one that made it, if I put on a perfect enough show, no one will ever question what's happening at home. No one will ever ask. And no one will ever know that, by the age of 15, I was driving to drug deals and taking my dad to them. Or dealing with extreme abuse, or all these types of drugs everywhere in the home. And I'd go to school and I'd present super churchy and super perfect and super put together, and then I'd go home and live this other life. And that became something that I just thought was normal until I ran away at 18. And then all of a sudden I was making this 180 turn, and I thought, okay, I get to choose now what I'm going to live, and the only thing I knew was perfection. So I sought perfection. And what better way to seek perfection than being a mom? Kids make it so easy to be perfect. I was going to raise perfect kids. So I started having kids, and I thought, oh, this is so easy. This is fun. I can do this. I can control their little worlds. And I had 1, and then I had 2, and then I had 3, and then I had 4. And I found myself like, oh, this is so fun, holding my little 4th baby and sitting with a group of friends. And then all of a sudden it hit me, and I thought, what if I become that lady that thinks this is so fun until it's not? And then she has that many kids, and everybody looks at her and behind her back says, why didn't they tell her to stop having babies? She obviously can't do this. So I turned to my friend who had 5 kids, and I said, how did you know? How did you know when you were done having kids? And she said, oh, you'll know. Your ship will rock. And I thought, I don't feel that. I still feel fine. And I did. And so I had baby number 5, and then I had baby number 6. Ooh, I kept going. And then one day, I had all 6 of my little ducklings with me up at Bear Lake at my grandma's cabin. And up at Bear Lake, there's this really cool cabin in the shape of a shoe, if any of you've seen it. And my Aunt Cindy looks at me and she says, oh, Lexi. And I said, what? And she said, we need a picture of you in front of the shoe with all your little kids. And I said, what? Why would you say that? She's like, you're like the old woman who lives in the shoe with all her kids. And you know that poem, there was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many kids, she didn't know what to do. She fed them some broth without any bread, then whipped them and sent them to bed. What? That is not a perfect mom. And I was going to be the perfect mom. And I was going to have perfect kids. So, I continued my life, and I had my 6 kids and this little baby, and my oldest was 10. And I thought, it's an hour before bedtime, let's go grocery shopping. It's a good idea. So I took all 6 of my kids to this grocery store, and I have my 10-year-old boy who's like super Rico Suave. If you know Noah, you know he's Rico Suave. And then I had my Phoebe, who is my keep me on track and had my grocery list and was checking it off. And then I have Zeke, who I knew in the womb had ADHD. And then I had Ez, my little toddler, and Asher, my other little toddler, who was barely 2, and then Eve, my little baby, buckled in her car seat. And that was our little group. And Noah in the store, while we're walking around, there's these little girls that thought he was really cute, because he kind of was. Kind of. No, he is. And they were taking pictures of him, and he kind of liked it, but he kind of had to act like he didn't. So he, you know how that goes. And then there's Phoebe, and Zeke kept climbing on the side of my cart as I had all these groceries in the cart. And then there's Ez and Ash, my little toddlers, and they're holding onto the cart and dragging their legs because it's a fun train ride. And I'm pushing, and Phoebe's keeping me on track, and Zeke's climbing on the side, and Noah's getting his photos taken. And all of a sudden, I turn around, and then I hear the loudest crash, followed by the loudest shrill, and my face turned red. I could feel it just, and I could feel the beads of sweat on my back. And I turned around, I knew it was my child. And there I looked. The grocery cart had fallen on my 6-year-old Zeke. And he was the one screaming for his life. Eve was screaming because she just experienced her first earthquake in a car seat. And then Asher and Ez looked and thought, why did our train ride stop? And there was me. And Noah now, at this point, is too embarrassed to be by us. So he's ducked out. And Phoebe's looking at the list. Mom, we still haven't gotten the eggs. Oh, okay. And the entire store stopped and stared at me. And I looked and I thought, this isn't the story. This isn't the facade. This is not me. I'm supposed to be a perfect mom. I'm supposed to have perfect children. They usually follow me in the store. They usually don't climb on the cart. They usually don't do this. And I'm going through my mind, and then the store worker comes and says, you need to do an incident report. What? Can't I just go? Hasn't this been shameful enough? I go and fill it up. The kids are crying now. Zeke's pretty sure every bone in his body is broken. And he was fine. He was fine. And we finally leave the store. We check out, and we're getting in the van. We put all our groceries in, and I'm driving home. It was a long car ride home because we lived in Huntsville, Eden, which is like a 20-minute drive into Ogden. And I'm driving home, and I take the opportunity in the dark to lecture my children. I became the woman in the shoe. But I didn't whip them, so I just whipped them with my words. And I said, you guys, all you had to do was listen. All you had to do is not climb on the cart. All you had to do was walk by the cart. You didn't have to ride on the cart. All you had to do is mindfully keep and do the things I asked you to do. And I lectured and I lectured and I lectured. And I remember I lectured so much that I remember being out of breath. And then I remember just being like, oh, stopped. And I'm driving in the dark, and we're making our way around Pine View. And I remember taking this deep breath and thinking, oh, if only they just listened to me. This could have been a perfect grocery experience. And then all of a sudden, this black and white thing ran in front of my car. And my car, there was this thump, and everybody felt it. And I just went, I gasped. And then all the kids, of course, gasped. I think they were a little scared to gasp because they were like, oh no, maybe we're not supposed to gasp. Mom was putting a lot of pressure on us. And they said, Mom, what happened? And I said, I just ran over a skunk. And they were like, oh. And everybody just sat there silently. And I sat there and I thought, do I turn around and go check on the skunk? No, just keep driving. And all of a sudden the car just filled with skunk. I could smell it, and I thought, oh, great, now we're all going to smell like skunk for the rest of the week. And then all I could do was laugh. I have never laughed so hard like I did in that van that night. And all of a sudden, me laughing gave permission for my kids to laugh. And all of a sudden, I realized how ridiculous it was for me to expect these perfect little kids to behave like an adult. How unfair was that? That I had an idea of what my kids should be like, and I wanted the image that I thought was perfect. And I expected them, who were just being kids, to be perfect, all because I needed to feel validated. And I realized, yeah, I do struggle with perfectionism, and I am a recovering perfectionist. And my kids have taught me that in the perfection is the most amazing and beautiful moments in life. And I'm so grateful.